I have already done tutorials on bleeding brakes, both bikes with ABS and without, and as always you can find everything in the video description, all related links, but in several comments and also on several occasions I have been asked, why don't you do a tutorial on how to bleed the brakes with the vacuum master cylinder? And so here we do it right away. The bike back here needs a rear brake bleed. We immediately take the opportunity to get what we need and do this. Bleed, of course, we will need the contraption now. Well, this a little bit tanned because so much that I have it, and so a little bit tanned badly, but it still works perfectly. So we will need this little tool that attaches to the compressed area. Pressing the gun doesn't blow, but creates a vacuum through this little tube here that goes attached to the brake caliper bleeder or even the master cylinder. Wanting that, we want to bleed. And let's see right away in detail, in concrete, how it works. Of course, we will also need brake fluid. The recommendation is always that I talked about brake fluid, and I leave you the video below. Also that to use new containers, or at least opened recently, because it is very hygroscopic, absorbs moisture. Moisture then with the escaldas of the system turns into air bubbles. So it is very important to use a quality product and fresh, so jars kept of months. Also no. We put some fluid, and clearly the keys that we need to operate, that varies depending on the bike. Obviously, to me here needs a 8 hexagonal to detach the saver, and be more convenient to disassemble the wrench for the rear bleeder and compressed air, obviously. We are going to put on the vacuum here. It will be enough to crush, and from this little tube, when we crush, there is depression, so this we place it conveniently. And then we prepare, we open the tank cap, etc. The convenience is that it has a hook that with which we can hang everything, for example, from the platform, so that it sits there. A little trick with these jeggy, however, they are very full, and you put them, like in this case, that it stays a little tilted. It can happen that we go to operate the vacuum, and from the front where the air is supposed to come out, basically particles of pulverized fluid or freni also come out. So I usually get to the middle and empty it. We think be careful, because otherwise we can do a fluid brake wash on the bike that doesn't really do very well. It's not recommended for the best body shops in this case, but it's a specific case. Clearly every bike is its own story. I have to remove it. At least move this carbon protector, so I have better access to remove the oil tank. I want to remove it because it's really inconvenient to fill it up, to prevent it from going around me. I secured it with a zip tie so that we are sure that it doesn't topple over and we make a mess with the brake fluid. Now we have to attach the vacuum to the caliper. We move back a little bit more before we go to put the hose. I already stick the wrench that I will need for bleeding with my hands in the back. It is more comfortable. And we put the tube into the bleeder fitting. Well, now we are ready to bleed. What will happen that the moment we go to open the give depression from the pump, it will start sucking oil. My advice is to first give depression, open the bleed, get the fluid out, close the bleed before removing depression. Now we see it also, the very important and fundamental thing is to throw the eye to the reservoir, because it absolutely must not empty, because otherwise it sucks air when the fluid is finished. Then continue to make depression pulls in air. If it does not point to head, it's fine. If we have to completely empty a brake system, then we open and away, for example, to change the hoses. We can do so, same thing as to fill them. Then so if we have to change a hose increase, a braided hose, for example. Not in this case, that was already there as standard. We can connect, open, we pull the vacuum throttle, we block it. Usually there is a gate that you block. This empties everything, empties the whole system. We change the hose, we put everything back, we put the oil, and we pull and have it pulled. This is very convenient also, and especially for bleeding systems with ABS, you are able to make a bleed done well. Although I usually, after I bleed, that no more air comes out, I always give it a little tap to bleed in the system. Traditional method. So by hand, I like to feel, just do it by hand. You can feel Anyway, if there is air also from the little vibrations on the wrench, I want to see what happens. This anyway is very convenient to speed up the operation. So we are ready. Work now. It is closed here. There is no depression. Let's get the fluid ready. This is new, opened yesterday, so that we can keep an eye on the reservoir and promptly top off a moment before it reaches idle. Shall we go? She makes a mess. So it's best if I stop for a moment to explain the steps I opened. It began to affect the spiral of the fluid. The level quickly went down, the first few times. Maybe it's advisable to keep your hand on the key. Open, keep an eye on the reservoir and close it before it gets to the bottom. Then over time, with a little guile, a little experience, you can open it up and go behind with the fluid topping up, in the case of the rear system, the small. So watch out, because a moment it empties pool could save it all. Now top up. And go another round. From the tube that is transparent, you can see fluid flowing in. This case, also air bubbles, keep an eye on it. When we are satisfied, when almost only fluid comes out, we can stop. And very personal advice, the last safety bleed, the one you do one more. After you said, okay, do one more, I do it by hand. Then with my free a little trick when you are done before disconnecting the tube. We open the vacuum, then we pull it off so that we avoid that fluid left in the little tube going around the bike. So we squeeze and pull off. Not a single item came out. The good thing about this tool and the convenience is that it gets done very fast when we want to replace the brake fluid, so we can open suction. We put from the top and away go very fast, clean. Especially that we don't mess up when we have to change the hoses, then empty the system and fill it up. And I would say almost indispensable for bleeding systems with ABS. Now I have had this tool here for about 2 years. I bought it on Amazon, and in that regard, I leave you below. Not the link to this product, but the link to an Amazon showcase that I made with all the products that I buy, that I use in the workshop, and that I have tried, so that they are good worth. I feel like recommending. You will also find this an important thing during the bleeding. With this device, with this tool, is not necessary, and indeed better, not to have it pumped. So you do not pump as in the traditional bleeding, but you make the depression do everything there. I have this freaking tire changer compressor that does stow stonk. It will be a year that I say I have to look at it. However, it keeps doing it. Sorry, it is bothered. So let's not touch the master cylinder for both rear and front system and clutch. Let's not touch anything. Let's get everything done right. I hope you liked this video, was useful. You had taken away some doubts about the bleeding of the braking system. Well, I would say that also for this technical video tutorial bar is all I remind you, if you have not already done so. Subscribe to the channel. There remains a big hand to grow this channel and to propose more and more interesting content. See you next time, and thanks.